This is the amazing Pixar's Inside Out 1. The original. Can't believe it's already been 11 years. But this was the movie that really brought Pixar back to originals after a good few years of sequels and prequels. This and Brave, which was the first Pixar movie to be fine. But with Brave being a bit of a dud right after Cars 2 being their first real stinker the previous year, it had left the question that maybe Pixar's magic was gone. And so, Inside Out 1 came at probably the very best time. It certainly is a good job they put this one out before The Good Dinosaur at the very least. It was the first Pixar original of the 2010s worthy of the initial pantheon, which is why it got a sequel in the end. What do you know? We're not getting out of those anytime soon. They just can't leave these things alone. But in fairness, this was a concept that actually warranted so much potential for more movies. The world of Inside Out is a genuinely fantastical one, with seemingly so much potential still to go, even after 2 whole sequel projects of it. Though I do struggle to see how the same situation could possibly come out of Coco 2, but that is a real thing as well. I know. But before we've even seen anything of the Inside Out world, just looking at a black screen here, the movie immediately sets out its core concept and mandate without any ambiguity.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Whilst this movie's concept may seem easy to follow, particularly now we're 10 years, 2 movies and a TV series into it being around, even still, it's easy to overlook how this more abstract idea could be lost on younger kids. So you've got to nail the very first impression to really sell it. You need to communicate this massive idea well enough to not alienate the audience, which I guess they seem to forget by the time of Lightyear, which is why this whole opening sequence is essentially a well-told exposition dump, but it's kinda necessary, as it's a big idea to be introducing, and you need the viewers to be caught up in order to tell the story. And when I say we start from the beginning, I really mean it.
And there she was.
This movie opens up with a representation of the point of view of coming to life and managing to make it look easy.
Aren't you a little bundle of joy?
But what I think is also so effective with this opening, it's someone not only narrating someone else's life that they're just a part of, but it's also just the motions of a normal human life being told.
Just Riley and me, forever.
And all of the choices of this playing out just hit the right notes. The first emotions of a newborn's mind being joy, with all the subsequent emotion introductions just making total sense. You can't have the baby stage without crying, so
I'm sadness.
boom, there's sadness, of course. Toddlers have no fear initially. Alas, fear comes in later.
He's really good at keeping Riley safe.
Disgust coming in from toddlers refusing to eat certain foods.
It's broccoli!
And my main man anger here being introduced with no dessert written on a newspaper. As soon as I saw that visual gag the first time, I knew that this was a movie that had as much of Pixar's signature attention to detail as their very best work. And there is so many micro gags in the background to be perceived in all of these stories. Genuinely, it's some of my favorite stuff. Who needs dialogue? I need endless background visual gags. Oh, and speaking of details, for Riley's angry scream, they use the same sound bites as Boo from Monsters, Inc. Just thought I'd mention, please don't add this to the Pixar theory. Riley is not Boo with hair dye. And from early on, they begin to show Joy's character flaws and dynamics with sadness that will ultimately lead us into this entire story.
I'm not actually sure what she does.
Before this came out, I did wonder whether the emotions would just have that one emotional state for their whole personality, and I'm glad that that wasn't the case, because how do you tell a story when the core characters can only express one emotion? It's an obvious pitfall this franchise could have fallen into, and it's great that they dodged it. But obviously, Joy is the main character here.
And they're mostly happy, you'll notice, not to brag.
And I like that they use her flaws as a projection of when Joy isn't a positive influence. While she is there for the genuine moments of joy, we see early doors that she is potentially overstepping any other emotions from getting through. She is the force that's trying to keep you positive in a situation where you may need to be feeling something else in order to process it properly. What a crazy take of a conflict to tell in your story. Genuinely, it's incredibly layered writing. She's hogging the limelight, yet it's all in the best interest of her kid. I've previously compared her to Woody in that way. They both hog their respective consoles as they think they know what's best for their child. Woody, of course, initially acts a lot more selfishly than Joy, but it's still a very similar concept. Both franchises revolve around these semi-invisible characters whose purpose is to care for a child. Kind of part of the Pixar formula. Definitely an interesting theme that Pixar seems to be fond of. Monsters Inc. as well, I guess, could kind of be a reverse of that. Invisible to everyone except the child.
But these are called core memories.
And hey, here's a fun fact. The concept of core memories was kind of invented in the zeitgeist of the real world from this movie. We never really referenced core memories before this point, so already this media has directly influenced real life as well. The power of animated movies. It's not just slop for kids. Just like the emotions themselves, there were so many ways they could have presented how the mind works, as this is all generally about child psychology, and just human psychology as well. When you watch it, it seems so obvious, yet brainstorming this must have been a ball ache. And then they'd have to write down a note for brainstorms. Yes, of course there would be a machine that comes out of the floor with the core memories, which play out of the memory marbles like a projector, which also powers a personality island that stems out of the control room, all of which then becomes a central plot point we can actually build stakes around. Of course that's how the mind works. Also, yes, the memories will be marble shape, like that lost your marbles expression. Obviously. Pixar are notorious for their rigorous writer's room and storyboarding process. These movies get workshopped within an inch of their life. And this is the perfect example of when that pays off, and Cars 2's the worst case scenario. I'll assume that John Lasseter just strong-armed it straight past the writer's room for that to come out like it did. Although I guess I'm talking about Pixar writing room problems, we know The Good Dinosaur ended up getting delayed before it encountered major issues in the creative process, which made that so poor. And even in the modern day, with the likes of Elio having a complete revamp and all sorts of drama, it just goes to show that the writer's room are in their own sense the core memories of how a Pixar movie functions and succeeds. But anyway, clearly this process was particularly crucial in this movie, where you could go a million different ways with it, including the emotions they chose, particularly with disgust, which is why each of these character introductions are so important. You leave this opening scene thinking, of course these are the core emotions, because they all get a clear moment to function. Embarrassment could have legitimately been a choice for the first movie too, yet you never really question that from how the movie frames itself. And when he does finally get introduced in the movie about puberty, that also seems to just fit perfectly. All the while, we do know there is a scrapped emotion that never appeared in either of the first two movies, who they ended up not following through with because they felt they brought too much of a negative influence onto Riley's development. Too anti-Riley to a certain extent. It's interesting to hear how they chose the emotions. They also strike a balance of absolutely giving this potentially abstract console room a sense of place, whilst also still being playful and silly with it. I'm honestly surprised they had any relatable gags like this left for the second one, as they seem to get all the brain freeze, floor is lava, and all the rest of it covered here already. There's also a great point to acknowledge just the animation. As I said, analyzing the sequel, this movie's scale feels huge considering it's all just happening inside of a kid's brain. You almost forget the big sweeping shots of the landscape surrounding the console room would have been as big an animating job as a cityscape would be. It's just a big old city made out of brain, and visually it even mimics the wrinkles of the top of the brain. Beyond the scale of it, it's the invention of the design choices. Designing a non-literal, emotion-led layout of a mind is no easy task. Yet it's another one of those things where you're like, oh, of course it would look like that. They have the shots in the real world to boast their skills at realism, where they can do a fully rendered Golden Gate Bridge, so I'm glad we do get this inversion of that, where you can have this colorful, cartoon-like setting going on. I think they could have even gone further with the wackiness, if anything. But at the same time, I've complained about the aliens in Elio, so maybe we'll just leave that. Still not a big fan of blob characters in general, so at least they didn't do fully that. And then there's the life event they chose to frame this story around.
Not what I had in mind.
Another thing they could have gone in so many different directions with.
We're almost to our new house. Step on it, Daddy.
Okay. You want to have a life event that a lot of kids either go through or have some awareness of, which is both not as serious as the death of a relative, but would still have a genuine impact or moment of change for them. God, can you imagine they invent grief into Inside Out 3? I mean, that is a good prompt for teaching kids how to handle that topic. Oh God, how depressing.
It's our new house, and
Inciting incident in mind, moving house I think was a great shout. Although another weird parallel with Toy Story. Leaves an image of Riley's emotions having a crisis in the car, whilst her toys also have one in the moving lorry that gets delayed. What a crossover event. If they want to keep Toy Story going, there's a spin-off idea for you. And to make it worse, give all the toys themselves as well all of these emotions in their head. But yes, moving house can be hugely stressful for a child. Those 11 years in Minnesota represent Riley's entire life. Any change is stressful at that age, and that is probably the biggest non-tragic change they could have come up with to make an emotional yet not depressing movie all around. Although I'm not sure if child me would be impacted that much. I moved around like 9 times as a kid. I don't remember being particularly distressed through any of it, but maybe it's because I started young. Still, with a premise like this, it does open up so many storytelling possibilities and obstacles for the character. For one, instead of just doing the starting a new school story at a point where Riley is at least in the same boat as the other kids, you instead have her starting by herself. Sucks for her, but it's a lot more interesting as a story point for us. The visual choice as well to initially portray this new home as desaturated and wholly in contrast with the intercuts of the colorful console room. Not to mention her jumper, interestingly featuring colors of every emotion, including anxiety? Who am I kidding? It's probably just a rainbow jumper. I'm getting ahead of myself. The first scenes of all of the emotions interacting with each other is also another incredible showcase of just how great this script is.
No.
Riley can't live here.
He's right.
I'm starting to envy the dead mouse.
This house
It's the
stinks.
worst place I've ever been.
Get out the rubber ball.
Worst.
Really bad.
It's absolutely the worst.
Whilst representing the succession of thoughts that would really be running through her head, each line also makes perfect sense for each character saying it. There are constantly all of these different levels of context operating in this movie, which the script persistently succeeds at factoring in. Whilst I feel like we never really get to know Riley's family that deeply, they do still manage to give us these glimpses into them having a great family relationship, which becomes especially important as that relationship later falters. Time for a crowd pleaser joke to stick in the trailer.
Congratulations, San Francisco. You've ruined pizza.
Thank you. And then into the, no pun intended, core dilemma in this movie.
She did something to the memory.
What did you do?
As Sadness's impact on Riley begins to grow in the wake of this movie. Once again done through the meta-textual lens they've got going on here. Sadness literally touching a memory becomes a happy memory tainted by sadness. And as this plays out, I appreciate that they portray it as something that Sadness can't entirely help her actions with here.
I wanted to maybe hold me.
You nearly touched a core memory.
They're just kind of happening. Also, just in general, Sadness may just be the best character.
Milk came out for no
That hurt.
And through this comedy back and forth, we're set up for how Joy and Sadness see situations from different angles.
Feeling droopy.
Oh, hey.
Sure, it seems obvious that happiness and sadness are two opposites, but when that's a dilemma for your story, you don't still need to show us that.
If we can't find investors by then, we're gonna have to lay people off.
Huh, I do wonder what the dad's job is. He seems to have a role in a company to some capacity, with the power to make people redundant. But also the company can't be doing too well, because his new house looks terrible.
Been a really challenging decision to make.
Oh, has it?
Also, I presume they've moved for his work? Yet it seems like he's been quite high up for a while. I get it, it's not meant to matter, but interesting. Just a benign detail no one was meant to overthink, yet. Okay, according to the Pixar wiki, he works for a startup company called Brang. There you go. Perhaps that detail's in a pretty obvious place for everyone else, but I had no idea.
You know about getting his new company up and running?
No.
Very bold to move across the country for a startup company, but okay. Very trusting wife going on here. I've spent way too much time on the dad's job. Let's just get back to the actual important stuff happening here, shall we? Like the 9-year early tease of the Disney Plus series Dream Productions.
Come live with me, Riley.
Followed by one of the quieter moments of the movie. That short sequence of Joy skating alongside the core memory is perhaps one of Pixar's most iconic bits of imagery. It's just so pure and gives us that caring insight into her character, reminding us that all her actions are informed by what she thinks is best for Riley.
Tomorrow is another great day.
But although she gives it a good go,
Which will turn into a good year, which turns into a good life.
along with another great gag that later becomes an actual plot point,
Train of thought, right on schedule.
Riley's first day at school, of course, does not go great for her.
Oh no, we're crying!
Oof, I think we can all wince at the memory of living through some moment like that. Whether that is a whole class of faces looking at you or something of that vein.
Cool kids whispering at 3 o'clock.
Did you see that look?
They both managed to give Riley's experience here something unique to her character, whilst also having that spiritual overlap with experiences we can all relate to. And this being the event to induce the sad core memory just seems to fit.
It's a core memory.
But it's blue.
Upscaling these seemingly normal life events to these huge organizational struggles for the emotions is Inside Out's MO. One exposing moment becomes the core memories slipping away and the islands of personalities becoming disconnected and grey. It demonstrates huge creativity to recontextualize these life events to make them seem huge, but also uses that as a lens to make the audience think, hey, this emotional stuff is a pretty huge deal. But in the case of the movie, that leads to Joy trying to stop the core memory being added to where it belongs, and then that leads both her and Sadness both getting sucked out of the console room.
Can I say that curse word now?
And from this point, we kind of get a road trip story with Joy and Sadness. Or Quest Through the Forest movie, if that's how you want to interpret it. A great way in the first installment to introduce the world building of your world, the sense of scale between them and the remote headquarters in the far distance also adds an important factor of a quest in actually having a sense of scope to said quest. Alas, Riley's mind is the size of Middle-earth.
Riley's Islands, they're all down.
Another nice touch is Sadness is shown to clearly want the best for Riley as much as Joy, and isn't out to actively upset her.
Without you, Riley can't be happy. We gotta get you back up there.
Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more amazing animated movies. We've got plenty more of Pixar to do, so come join if you're interested in more. But otherwise, here's to the second half of the amazing Inside Out 1.
Without you, Riley can't be happy. We gotta get you back up there.
It sets up the stakes, but also in giving Sadness these lines, just gives extra depth to her. She is not the villain here. And it's interesting, because they easily could have made her one, in a sense. And here we go. Here's another scene that absolutely seals the deal for Inside Out as a modern classic Pixar movie. It's time for the back and forth between the parents' heads.
Let's probe, but keep it subtle so she doesn't notice.
This is where we started to see the full potential of the Inside Out universe. I think they were wise to primarily focus on one character's mind to keep the story focused on one perspective, but at least having a scene giving us this perspective to other immediately relevant characters was very welcome. I would have been peeved if all we got was that run-through we got of all the minor characters at the end. Having the textbook family argument as the scene to do this with is as hilarious as it is functional in the story. It's only now that something has fundamentally changed in Riley's behavior that we get this look behind the parents' curtains. Not my best phrasing.
Signal the husband.
And fun fact, the sport that actually shows in this scene changes per country. By the way, this is the UK version of the movie, so it's football, but each country got their own dominant sport featured in this moment, which is a nice idea. But I do wonder if having hockey as that sport maybe could have snuck in more depth to the actual family, adding that subtext that Riley's love of hockey comes from the family's common interests, no?
What did she say? What? No one was listening.
And yeah, kind of interesting that Sadness leads Mum's mind whilst Dad's is led by anger. Like, what does that say about them? It's an interesting subtext that they don't really point anything out with, but it's a note. They seem absolutely fine together in reality, but if you just had the internal head scenes, you'd be thinking that there was a pretty bad relationship going on there, maybe.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
You gotta feel sorry for the employees over at Brang, at the very least.
I wanted you to hear from me.
Shut the f up.
I wonder what industry Brang's even a part of. I gotta stop obsessing about Dad's company. Gotta put the foot down in a minute.
No, not the foot.
Just another one of the many great ideas in this movie, the foot being Dad's ultimate deadlocked weapon.
Keys to safety position.
I feel like they must have gotten the first few drafts of the story, and then just did one that was solely focused on all the observational jokes.
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room.
Meanwhile, we get set up for the most devastating part of the movie,
If we fall, we'll be forgotten forever.
followed by what is essentially a huge fairground collapsing into a hole, complete with large-scale sound design and everything. in any other movie, a devastating disaster movie scene. Yet here, as well as being a big-scale action scene, it gives a visual representation of a child losing their sense of fun. That's what these movies do. They take these emotional experiences that feel huge to the person experiencing them, but fairly normal to any observers, and visualize how that trauma feels from their perspective. That subsequent visual of the completely grayed out goofball island falling into a black abyss being a particularly haunting shot.
We have a major problem.
Which they then have the audacity to intercut with memories of Riley having fun to fully send that punch home. They managed to take this one sequence from a disaster movie action scene to what is tonally a death scene. And that's a sandbox they will of course play in a few more times before this colourful feature-length trauma dump wraps up on us.
You can fix this, right, Joy?
This guy directed the opening of Up, and it shows. But then they immediately go right back to, we're incredibly smart comedy writers as well. They're just flexing on us at this point.
Think positive.
I'm positive you will get lost in there.
Pixar's just that annoying kid that seems effortlessly good at everything, aren't they? They're overachievers is what I'm trying to say. Even in what would be most movies' stock corridor shots, where they put less effort into the background, they still give these huge, colourful towers of memories. The most basic designs we get are the mind workers. And even then, the character and attitude in the writing is still as sharp as ever.
The song from the gum commercial.
We send that one up to headquarters for no reason.
Why did I enjoy that popping up in the second movie like it was some major character return? Also, here it gives us one of the best transitions in showing the direct relationship between the internal and external scenes.
Do you like it there?
As simple as the gag seems, it really does reinforce that relationship between the two worlds. Getting frustrated with the FOMO over what her friends are doing,
What? I gotta go.
the collapse of Friendship Island once again has this sound design that really blows up the scale, which would have been especially impactful in the cinema. It's not often you have a movie using a sense of physical weight as literal presentations of emotional weight. But that is the premise.
I will take you, but not you. Ow, who am I kidding?
Ah yes, the character that makes us all question, did we all have one of those?
Bing bong! Riley's imaginary friend.
In the adventure movie trope, I guess Bing Bong represents our stranded islander character, which is a great concept for an imaginary friend figure.
I gotta tell you, I am such a huge fan of your work.
Even working in the washed up look into his costume, seemingly inspired by Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp. Bing Bong is essentially an out-of-work entertainer after all.
I went to all of your concerts.
And if you want to have another layer of commentary, you could look at some kind of parallel with the now largely forgotten silent era, with that representing the infancy of film before they learned to speak. The more I break down this movie, the more I can appreciate how truly inventive and layered it is. What do you know, the movie all about the mind has a great sense of imagination. Of course, they do insert the character isn't gonna make it dialogue here.
I'll make sure Riley remembers you.
You will?
Don't worry about it, I'm sure he'll be fine. Here's a kitchen sink gag.
What? It's imaginary.
Once again, I do love that they use the in-mind world to include more exaggerated cartoon logic. It's just not something you get to see very often at Pixar.
D-A-N-G-E-R, shortcut.
And from here, they pretty much take it as far as you can with the abstract thought sequence. I know they don't make these movies for kids, but still, you've got to respect them for making a scene this conceptually nuts and actually putting it in the movie.
What is going on?
We're abstracting. There are 4 stages.
Not only is it a clever idea, but it also allows them to just get really creative with animation. I love when they flourish. From the initial cubist phase all the way to the one-dimensional lines, they create a sequence that makes sense in the context of both thought and the artistic choices themselves. And also, it's just a highlight of their great character designs. You can actually represent them as a singular shape and color, and it works. Of course, Joy is a yellow star.
We're deconstructing.
And speaking of imaginary, we go straight into Imagination Land, which goes Lego Movies levels of keeping up with all the gags and details.
First place.
Participation award.
As well as Bing Bong unaliving a cloud man. Did he watch Trolls recently? And of course, the One Direction 5 Seconds of Summer coded boyfriend.
Who the heck is that?
Imaginary boyfriend.
This was 2015, and it's not just Bing Bong with the cartoony antics going on. As sad as it is that Riley's now losing her way with hockey, I can't help but love the slapstick with fear trying to jam some non-core memories into the system.
It's working!
Oh, look at him getting eyeballed against a window. Love this stuff sometimes. All the while, they're directly contrasting this with the very grounded events of the external world. As fun as the goofier moments are, I think that moments like Riley rage quitting the tryouts as her mum looks on concerned, being these naturalistic moments in direct contrast with the internal wackiness, are what makes this movie. The human characters need to feel like real people. And again, it's another win to the fact that they're sparing us with showing the parents' emotions, as here, her mum's expression does more than enough. They have been animating for like 20 years at this point. They know how to do it naturally. We don't need an internal running commentary to undercut the drama here. And then they've got the nerve to send the rocket over the edge. No! As if that's the big sad thing this movie's given us.
Riley can't be done with me.
Ugh. Knowing what happens, they are absolutely ruthless putting these lines in on the rewatch. Absolute emotional manipulation. But it is an important moment in both Sadness and Joy's character journey.
They took something that you loved.
Her sitting with Bing Bong as he processes his sadness before moving on is a gentle introduction to showing how experiencing sadness can benefit us positively. This is just a 90-minute lesson of you can't smile through everything.
I'm okay now. The train station is this way.
Even if you just had this scene alone, it already leaves you with a solid message. And just an indication of the cogs beginning to turn for Joy sets us up for where we're heading. These emotions on a journey are also having an emotional journey, whilst also informing Riley's emotional journey, who then also physically takes her emotions on a journey in the climax. Let's just cut to 2025 being predicted a full 10 years earlier.
Facts and opinions look so similar.
Happens all the time.
Or unfortunately, it was commentary for the time back then as well. Before it's time to actually go on a sad journey, as anger suggests Riley runs away.
I'd call it the Happy Core Memory Development Program.
Whilst most of us don't, I think a lot of us have had some moment of being emotionally overwhelmed where we would have at least wanted to run away. It's another classic recognizable staple of childhood, once again turned into a huge organizational plot point. Into the Dream Productions pilot that didn't know it was a pilot, and of course, they made it look like Hollywood.
How about we wake her up?
Great idea, Joy.
Thanks.
Just from the movie posters alone, you know they've absolutely nailed this bit.
I can fly. I love that one.
On their own, each part of Riley's mind could make for a solid comedy sketch.
My friend says you're famous.
Sorry, she's from out of town. It's so embarrassing, right?
But it's far more enjoyable that they are also moving the story forwards in a functional way, rather than just pausing the story for a solid comedy bit. You know, that's the kind of common complaints you see with Family Guy, that they just pause the story for something that has nothing to actually do with anything. And particularly for a feature-length movie, I think working in these ideas organically to tell a larger story is of course the smoothest way to go. As fun as Pixar doing a sketch show sounds. And yes,
Wonder what that means.
the Monsters Inc. door is referenced as the entrance to a nightmare.
Everyone, Riley is the camera.
Even the references are thought through, and adding an actual harp player to start the dream.
Hello?
Oh, I just can't keep up. Again, I don't know what this says about me, but the bit I find funny is the dog ripping in half. Can't say that for any other movie.
It's just a dream. It's just a dream.
And from dreams to the subconscious, the gags keep on coming.
Grandma's vacuum cleaner!
Is it weird that I actually feel a bit sorry for the clown and want him to have a nice birthday party? I know the real version of him turns out to be a depressed actor at the end.
Drama school for this.
But get this insane imaginary one, a nice party, please.
Birthday girl!
Anyway, that does the job, and as they rejoin the train, Riley looks to join a bus.
She took it. There's no turning back.
Including stealing the purse of...
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh. This crumbling honesty island, which then creates the next obstacle for Joy and Sadness, is just another example of how an action on one end impacts the other, which goes both ways. Just the same as the clown causing Riley to wake up, Riley's actions equally impacts the inside world. Both in the case of Honesty Island, and we can kind of gather that heading for Family Island, just as she's running away from them, isn't going to pan out well.
Riley's running away. What?
As does Joy, still not letting in Sadness.
Riley needs to be happy.
Her abandonment of Sadness here is a bold move, showing this embodiment of positivity doing something pretty damn unlikable. It's a decision and character flaw not only consistent with the character already established, but also a representation of how we saw Sadness making a positive impact, how joy in the wrong situation isn't always a good solution either. Alas, she falls into the abyss, leaving Riley set to forget her sense of joy. Oh, heavy stuff in this high concept movie, with Joy having seemingly no choice but to just look at the memories that are about to fade away with her.
I just wanted Riley to be happy.
Leading her to tears, and for the first time, letting in Sadness.
They came to help because of sadness.
All told through the character herself experiencing it directly. There's no big speech laying it on thick. She experiences sadness herself and then realizes its importance. But it's not all gloom. Bing Bong's here to save her and lighten up the moon.
Take her to the moon for me.
Oh, never mind. There's not much more that can really be said about Bing Bong's self-sacrifice in this scene. It's the gut punch of the movie, particularly on the rewatch when you see him enjoying them fly the rocket for the last time. And as he looks at his hand fading away, it becomes clear where this is all going. And it feels true to how things go. Who actually remembers an imaginary friend that they had as a toddler? We know they happen, presumably through parents, but do any of us remember them ourselves? So it's not just a forced in-character death. It makes as much sense to the rest of the ideas they explore in this movie. Incredibly, surprisingly relatable stuff. And thus, it's finale time. And as Riley heads to the bus station, Joy now knows sadness is in fact the solution.
We can't make Riley feel anything.
Don't worry folks, Joy's about to save the day by stuffing a bunch of boyfriends into a bag and then using them as one big ladder. Which just leaves me hoping they don't have a great deal of sentience, because what a dark life for those guys. Being born and then being thrown into a fading abyss. Well, I guess they consented at least.
Oh, I wish Joy was here.
And now it's time for what this has all led up to, what kicked this all off in the first place.
Sadness, it's up to you.
Me?
And whilst they have set out the message in Joy's scene earlier, now it's time for the movie to cash in on it. Interesting how there was never really a villain in this whole plotline, other than Joy herself being the gatekeeper of all the other emotions. And so, in a completely visual sequence, we have Joy handing the core memories over before Sadness reels through these happy memories with her own tint of sadness. As the tears finally stream out of Riley, you've also got to appreciate the character animation in capturing it so accurately. The tears you cannot hold back, the redness in the face that comes with it. It's an all too real visual that captures it perfectly. Having these happy memories run through us when we experience sadness is as relatable as it gets, whilst also completing this movie's mission of us thinking about our emotions from a different angle. And I don't mean visualizing them as animated characters. Though if that helps, sure thing. But no, I'm talking about the fact that this story makes its case that oftentimes we need emotions like sadness in order to take us in the directions we need to go. Moments of joy stand out more when you have sadness to balance it out. And sometimes sadness directly leads to joy.
You need me to be happy. I want my old friends.
It's not exactly a clean translation from movie to real life, but I think we can all at least appreciate a film that encourages to accept that all of our emotions are a part of us. For a lot of us, we cannot control sadness, and that pressure to stay positive is less than helpful.
I want to go home. Please don't be mad.
Having this movie that says it's okay to be sad, you need sadness and aren't a failure for embracing sadness is commendable and cannot be appreciated enough. Even just having a movie whose climax is just a girl bailing out and running away before crying to her parents is something you won't see in any other movie. And yet Pixar did it. Of course they did. This is a Pixar classic.
You know what? I miss Minnesota too.
It's also just a great role model for a child being honest about their emotions. And I appreciate that the emotion characters are completely absent for pretty much the rest of this scene. You don't need the emotions to tell you what emotions is going on. Now it's all about the external humans, the most relatable bit we can attach to tell the rest of it. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who didn't get a positive response to a moment like this, as Riley has here. But hopefully having on-screen parents who do in this situation is also an example to the parents and future parents watching this movie too.
Hey, I'm liking this new view.
Right.
And yes, we have the classic fun Pixar resolution after this. We know how this goes. Emotions popping up from everyone's perspectives. It's the gags we've wanted to see this entire movie, and now it's finally payoff time.
Guys, what's puberty?
Oh look, the sequel button that they actually press.
But we still love our girl.
But for me, this is all just a bonus. The real home run victory of this movie is just that image of a family coming back together and re-finding joy through sadness. Inside Out is one of those movies that I thought was kind of okay, but great conceptually when it first came out. It really has grown on me to be amongst the very best of Pixar's work, which apparently became not quite as common post-2010. They may not hit a strike every time nowadays, but once in a while, we get something like an Inside Out. And then they follow it up with a sequel that similarly hits massive successes, narratively and financially, which is why they're probably going to end up making like 5 of them by the end of this whole damn thing. Where is the Grief movie? Are they going to make that? But at least for today anyway, that was Pixar's amazing Inside Out 1. For now though, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts about Pixar's Inside Out 1. What was your first impression when you first saw it? Where do you think it goes from here, or do you think they're actually done with the series? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more, but otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!